So jumping into planning as usual, uh, basically it's a process of identifying the quality requirements and the standards for the project. So this will as always the plan management process in any scope or schedule or cost. The planning part will definitely be the guidance part of the respective area. So in the plan quality management, it will tell you how you as a project manager, how the project will demonstrate compliance and the relevant quality requirements and standards. So your customer wants certain compliance standards. Maybe you're building a data center. You're in a project of a data center building project, and maybe the customer wants the compliance to be adherence to tier 3 standards or uptime institution standard, or there are some other institutions called TIA standards. So how you can demonstrate compliance and quality requirements and standards. So from the plan management, you try to plan out how you can achieve the quality required. So the plan basically will provide you the guidance and the direction how the quality will be managed and how it can be validated and monitored throughout the project. So the quality planning process can be done in parallel to other processes like scope and schedule. So it's a parallel process can be done in the quality planning stage. Let's jump into what you need to do the plan. Basically, as always, the project charter will give you the high level description of the quality objectives. Say for example, again, if you're building a data center, the project charter will definitely say the customer requires a tier 3 certified data center. So that itself give you the quality standard that you have to achieve when you're building the data center. It should be on tier 3 standards. So so the project charter will at high level give you what quality levels that this project that you are engaged in have to adhere. Then again, the requirement management plan will give you an idea as a project manager how the requirements are gathered. The risk management plan will give you the approach that you already taken in identifying, analyzing, and monitoring the risks of your project. The stakeholder engagement plan will be covering up next week. Will give you how the stakeholder expectations are managed. In the scope baseline, if you can recall, where the scope is there, which is the project scope, will definitely give you the quality requirements that is required and expected by your project stakeholders. Not only the quality requirements, it will also give you the project acceptance criteria. The UAT acceptance criteria will be discussed at the project scope level. So the project acceptance criteria will definitely give you the project quality requirements that is expected by your project stakeholders. So if the UAT says a certain degree of uptime that is required, or a certain degree of concurrent connections that is required, or so certain other product requirements, or maybe the projection, the scope baseline will say that the user interfacing should be in line with certain quality standards. So those quality standards will be directly can be taken, and the required quality standards or the expected quality standards can be derived for you as a project manager from the scope baseline. Right. Furthermore, to understand, now you are going to, you're in the place of planning quality, how to plan quality in your project, and you're in that phase. And the assumption log will will give you certain assumptions on constraints regarding the quality requirements or the standard compliance. So maybe in your assumption log of your scoping that you have mentioned in the assumption log that maybe we are maintaining cybersecurity standards, certain cybersecurity standards. So your assumption log will give you a preview to what type of quality standards are required by the stakeholders. Then, as I told you, the project, the requirement documentation will also give you the product quality requirements that is required by your stakeholders. The requirement traceability matrix will also give you a traceability, who has requested this level of standards. Maybe the information security manager of the customer's place has requested that all the screens or the user logins or user profiling should be in line with ISO standards. So for the requirements traceability matrix, will link the requirements, the deliverables, who and said, and what type of and the other parameters that is required for each requirement. Sometimes the risk register will also give you, as a project manager, some insights about the quality that is required, and especially the risk register will the risk register will highlight certain risks, threats, cybersecurity threats, or any other security threats that they have encountered, and so that those things has to be tackled through certain quality requirements. You as a project manager, the stakeholder register will be a prime document to understand the quality requirements of your project, because the stakeholder register will give you who are the prime stakeholders of your project, and then and with that you will have a good idea about their risk appetites and their tolerance levels, and particularly their interest in certain quality requirements. So maybe the customer's enterprise risk manager is also one of your main key stakeholders. Then definitely he is going to lay down certain quality requirements on you. Right. So again, you as a project manager, when designing what level of quality that you should maintain in your project, government regulations, maybe you are doing a core banking project, then central bank regulations with regard to certain quality standards, information security standards. You will get a better idea of the government regulations. So those quality standards need to get definitely incorporated into your project. Again, the rules and the guidelines of specific domain areas, as I told you. If it's a data center, then of course the tier 3 standards, then there are documents that you can download as a project manager, the checklist of the tier 3 data center standards, what needs to be included in your project to your data center get certified as a tier 3 data center. So those standards and the checklist will be a definite input for your project planning when you're planning quality management in your project. And the traditional organizational aspect of the quality policies of your organization and the lessons learned and in your previous projects and the quality templates and checklists will be a definite input. Right. So when you're planning quality of your project, definitely an expert judgment. You as a project manager may not be having the expertise knowledge of quality. Maybe you don't have expertise knowledge of certain data center standards. So you can actually tap certain third-party specialized knowledge to understand what are these quality requirements, and what type of controls are required in your project in order to ensure that these quality standards are achieved. So these expert knowledge you can tap in order to plan your quality in your project. Then again, you as a project manager, when planning quality in your project, you will have to definitely start looking at what comparable projects have done. Say you are doing an e-commerce site, and the security standards, the API standards, API security standards that you have to adhere. You can compare certain other projects, comparable projects that other organizations have done, or even global best practices. I mean, identify global best practices like the Tier 3 standards or any other ISO information security standards. If you're doing a warehouse, what are the warehousing standards? So global best practices, and also comparable projects that have been done within your organization or even in what is available publicly information can be a very handy input information when you're planning quality in your project. And also the traditional stuff of brainstorming and having interviews, formal interviews on the project quality needs with your stakeholders will give you a better understanding what type of quality is required in your project. Then again, you as a project manager might have to weigh between the cost of quality, the cost of adherence to quality against the cost of against expected benefits. So cost of quality we'll talk about in few minutes. So expected benefits can come from basically less reworking if you're adhering to quality standards, because as I told you, maybe the user acceptance will fail if the quality standards are not met, and so less rework, then high productivity, low cost. Definitely overall, if you maintain quality of your product, there can be low cost in maintenance, low cost in warranty periods that you are trying to give to your customer, and increase obviously stakeholder satisfaction. So cost of quality, if you talk about cost of quality, it has three segments. The cost of quality, one is the prevention cost. Prevention cost is where you try to the cost of investing in your project to prevent any non-conformance of the quality standards. This can include training your staff, training your projects team, or giving them any good idea of the project called the quality requirements. So quality requirements that is required by the customer. So the prevention cost is the investment that you need to do as a project manager into your project in order to prevent non-conformance. Appraisal cost is where, as I told you earlier in a previous slide, the appraisal cost is where the cost that is involved in ensuring the conformance to quality standards, periodic audits, periodic quality assurance audits from your quality assurance division, whether your software developers are doing the correct thing or maintaining the coding standards, whether they are defining their variables properly as per the quality standards set by the organization. They are adhering to the guidelines of the quality standards that are laid down by the software development management team. So the appraisal cost, basically the periodic auditing and evaluating to see whether your project team and the deliverables are conforming to the quality requirements. Then cost of quality, the third segment is actually the failure cost. This is where the cost of rework, that is, it can be tangible and intangible also. Internal, it can be also external. So the cost of failure can be intangible, can be your brand value name. Maybe if SAP, if a software like SAP having a lot of bugs, for the failure cost that is affect the brand value of your company. So so there are three kind of cost of quality. One is the prevention cost, the investment part that you need in order to prevent non-conformance from your project team. The appraisal cost, continuous monitoring and continuous auditing of your teamwork to ensure that that you conform to the quality standards that you have laid down. And the failure cost, the repercussions of a failing of non-conforming to quality standards. So so as I told you, prevention cost includes training, documenting, or certain equipments. You invest on certain certain automatic UA testing software, or any software that is required to test the systems. So these are all the prevention costs that is required to build a quality product. Appraisal cost, as I told you, the cost of inspections, then maybe penetration testings that you need to do periodic, ensure that vulnerability testings to ensure that your coding guys have done things without any issues, or any testing cost. So that is the appraisal cost part of it. So these two together is actually cost of conformance. These two try to actually conform yourself into the project quality. And the cost of non-conformance, as I told you, the failure cost, because the cost that is arising because of failure, because of that you are not adhered to the quality standards. So it can be internal. You may have to rework your modules and reprogram your modules, or sometimes you may, if it is very worstly done, then we have to scrap out certain programming modules. And external failure cost may be liabilities, project liabilities. Maybe there are project delays, and you will have to pay for your project delays as liabilities, or warranty work, as I told you, or loss of business due to loss of reputation. Okay, so still we are at the planning stage. So these are some of the diagramic data representations that can be used when you're coming to the execution part of your project, when you're managing quality, that you can decide at the planning stage itself. Cause and effect diagram, we did it in the last session when you talk about risk. If you can remember the root cause, the fishbone diagrams, flow charts, check sheets, checklist. Check sheets will be actually give you checklist, is a checklist. Check sheets is where you try to, if you are number of bugs, you try to take the frequency of the bugs, or Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, or something like that. For first week, second week, third week, try to number of bugs that you have detected, so that you can have a trend graph. Check sheet will give you data from the check sheet. You can give you a trend graph. Pareto diagrams and histograms are statistically, you can Google it also and see, these are statistical diagrams that is there. Control charts, we have done it earlier also, and we give you the threshold levels, the upper boundary threshold level and the lower boundary threshold level and the upper boundary threshold level, and you can plot your control charts. So within this percentage up and down boundaries, you maybe your tolerable percentage, and if your control charts goes beyond the limit of the tolerable limit, then of course it's escalation. So scatter diagrams is again a statistical diagram for when you're sampling quality, where you would plot the relationship between two parameters, the scatter diagrams. So these are some of there are n number of data representation techniques, and these are some of techniques that you can use. Right. So some of the tools, again, as I told you, statistical sampling. I mean, you can take a sample and start you can take a coding sample without going through all the codings of all your developers. You can take a sample out of your software developers, and then start sampling out the quality. And the sampling frequency and the sampling size is to be determined at this stage, So how much of frequency that you are going to take the samples, and what is the sample size for each during each statistical sampling can be decided at this planning stage. Then again, the cost of quality will depend on the sample size and the frequency. So more the sample size and more the frequency of testing, that can has a direct impact on the cost of quality of basically cost of quality of appraisal cost. So your appraisal cost might go up. So that's you to decide on the cost benefit analysis. So the output of a quality, the planning stage, is obviously the quality management plan that will describe how you are going to manage quality of your project. So the output will be the quality standards that you are expected to adhere in your project. So all your stakeholders and the requirements by now you identified as inputs, and understanding how the global trends and other comparable projects done around the world, what are the quality standards they adhere. So the quality standards, now you have a very clear idea of what are the quality standards that you have to adhere in during this project, and what are the quality objectives. And here you can, in this planning, you can identify who is responsible to maintaining quality, and what teams is responsible to maintain what quality standards levels, and the quality review and project deliverable. And there can be certain, you can identify maybe not all your project deliverables are subject to quality. Maybe certain project deliverables should be subject to strict quality reviews. So you can identify these are the project deliverables that should go under strict quality reviews. And of course, if it is software, maybe everything is under quality review. But then maybe if you're in a construction project or something like that, then not all deliverables may be at a that you need to maintain such a strict quality. Maybe at the foundation level or at the slab level that you have to maintain quality. So those project deliverables you can start identify. These are the project deliverables that should be subject to quality reviews. Then you identify the quality control and quality management activities that can be planned. What are the quality tools? What are your this is how you are going to present the data representation is going to be like that. And major procedures relevant to the project, that is dealing corrective actions. What is the corrective actions procedure? What is the continuous improvement procedure that you are going to adhere in this project? Also, at this planning stage, you will come up with the quality parameters. These are the quality parameters that you start measuring. In a construction, if I can recall, in a construction industry, obviously there are a lot of quality parameters, from your bricks to your sand that you use, your cement that you use. There are different quality parameters that is there. Up to they take samples and test whether the cement is up to the quality cement. They take a sample out of their bricks and say whether the strength is enough of these bricks. So likewise, when it comes to software in traditional software development areas, also the defect frequency, maybe the uptime or the number of errors found per coding lines, the downtimes, percentage of downtimes. So these quality parameters can be decided at this stage. These are the quality parameters that we will be calculating, and this is where we will be benchmarking ourselves. And also the tolerable limits, the control variances, the tolerable limits. These are, we are going to 5%, 10%, the tolerable limits that out of these quality parameters, that how much you are going to tolerate can be decided at this planning stage. So there is a base set of standards that every project will be subject to anyway, so, plus any customer specific standards, right? So these GDPR, ISO is from your organization perspective, which is coming into each and every project as a baseline standard. Okay, is that the way?
Yeah.
Plus any other customer specific stuff whether he demands. Okay, so that's why at the beginning of the first slide, as I told you, quality is organization plus customer stuff. Now you understand. In the very first slide we did. You can go back. This one. Okay. Right.
So this SLAs we hang on to.
SLAs.
That?
Yes, SLAs. Yeah, again, those are actually coming here, right? I mean, SLAs are basically it's a contractual obligation that you have to maintain. You have to maintain 99.99 uptime. Your system, whatever you deliver, should be told of, should be able to stand 99% uptime. So again, can't understand. It depends on what the SLAs are. Sometimes yes, it can be an input to you. If your SLA is actually says that your whatever system you deliver should have a 99.9 uptime, then of course intern is a quality parameter for you, right? So your guys should be your software development guys, when you are taking to the architecture, should start developing that. And maybe you have parallel processors, maybe multi-threading, or high availability, load balancing. And when you architecture a simple line like 99.99 availability, it's a huge, humongous amount of work at the architecture level. You will have to Oracle rack. You have to maintain Oracle rack, and we are parallelly we write data. You understand, right? So that's why it's very important to capture the user requirements properly.